Welcome to the DeFi Standard. This is Patty XRP, and today we are going to break down one of the projects that is vying for a Parachain slot on the Polkadot network called Moonbeam, which is going to be an Ethereum compatible smart contract parachain on the Polkadot network. And one thing to point out about this project is they launched their Canary version on Kusama, and that is called Moon River. It was able to secure a parachain slot on the Kusama network. So currently, it's in its process of becoming fully decentralized on Kusama at this point in time. And eventually, once these parachain loan offerings start going on within the Polkadot network, it's possibly a project that will see secure a slot relatively early on in the process based on what has happened with Kusama. And this is definitely one of the most talked about projects I've seen coming to Polkadot. So that also makes me think that it probably wouldn't take too long for this project to get on Polkadot. And to add on to that, before we go into this, this broadcast is for educational purposes. No financial advice is intended, nor am I a financial advisor. So, with that out of the way, let's kind of dig into what Moonbeam is doing here. So over on their website, which is moonbeam.network, and I'll link in some more information in the description for those of you wanting to look into this project more. So basically, they're offering the ability for projects that currently, utilize the EVM, use the Solidity smart contract language, an easy ability to port those projects over to the Moonbeam parachain so they can interact with tokens and liquidity coming from the Polkadot network, as well as have the ability to utilize some of the functionality developed on other parachains that may not be available on Ethereum. And then Polkadot also has much lower gas fees and faster transaction times than Ethereum. So this offers projects a way to kind of expand their brand to other networks, increases interoperability, and things of that nature. So with this, they have minimal configuration changes, so no need to rewrite or reconfigure smart contracts. They use familiar smart contract language, so Solidity, Viper, and anything else that compiles Ethereum virtual machine bytecode. Additionally, they're going to let you use tools that people already use to develop on top of Ethereum, which is like MetaMask, Hardhat, Waffle, to name a couple, as well as they'll have some pre-built integrations for assets like DOT, any ERC20s, and infrastructure services like Chainlink and the Graph. And so further down here, basically, they're going to allow you to fully connect into everything that has to do with the Ethereum virtual machine. So it's a pretty seamless process to move over to the Moonbeam network. And additionally, we can see how many projects are already looking to launch on top of Moonbeam, and it's not even live yet. So some of the big ones that I know of: Ocean Protocol, SushiSwap, Chainlink, Band Protocol. Open Zeppelin is like a smart contract repository that helps people kind of get started with smart contracts and building those. The Graph I mentioned earlier. There's a couple others that are pretty big as well. I think they have Polka Markets, another one. And then moving over here. Oh, that's going to take a sec. And I knew there was another one I wanted to point out, but that's going to be Balancer. You can see right next to that Seascape. So they're going to have, NFT economies built on top of Moonbeam as well. So I mean, the size and scope of Moonbeam is pretty huge and definitely can rival other layer one chains, but it'll be operating as a parachain to the Polkadot network. So it'll be sharing in the security and consensus of the Polkadot's relay chain. And basically, how Moonbeam is going to work will be through the use of these parties that are called collators. And what they do is they basically send state changes to the validators on the Polkadot relay chain. So they'll have a whole system where you can utilize their native token, which is called Glimmer, and we'll get into that a little further down. But you can do it similar to what you do with the DOT token and staking with validators on Polkadot, With Moonbeam, you can take your Glimmer tokens and stake them with the collators, who then will gather all the transactions and create blocks for the Moonbeam network and send the proofs over to the validators on Polkadot to have, the final recording for consensus and have those transactions, baked into the protocol from here on out. So that'll provide a way to earn some staking rewards in their native token Glimmer. And additionally, we can see, so this Glimmer token is going to help with smart contract execution. So it'll be gas fees on the Moonbeam network, as well as the transaction fees will be paid in Glimmer. It'll allow you to have on-chain governance, and then also the staking we were talking about, so you can earn some of the inflation rewards with the Glimmer token. And so they just recently put out a new blog that talks about their liquidity programs, a new token event, and Glimmer redenomination. So this is something that happened with Polkadot when they launched Kusama. They decided to change the max, or not necessarily the max token supply, but the starting token supply from 10 million to 1 billion. So the Glimmer token Genesis supply will be 1 billion tokens with an annual inflation rate of 5%. And additionally, how I was talking about, they launched Moonriver on Kusama. The token for that stays at 10 million. So it'll have the same kind of refactoring between the Kusama token and DOT, as well as Moonriver and the Glimmer token. And so with this, they'll have some liquidity programs additionally. So they're thrilled to announce that the Moonbeam Foundation has allocated 8% of the total Genesis supply of Glimmer and 10% of the Genesis supply of the Moonriver token to incentivize liquidity programs on Moonbeam and Moonriver. So, like I said earlier, we have SushiSwap that's going to be launching on the Moonbeam network. Well, they could have some of these Glimmer tokens be used for making markets between maybe the DOT token and the Glimmer token. So we'll have to see how that works out and how they distribute that exactly, but that is in the plans according to the recent blog. They just have to put out more information about it. And so if we go to look at the Glimmer token allocation, you can see 53.5% of the Genesis supply is committed to the community, ecosystem development, and network operations. So here's 8% for the liquidity programs, and then additionally, they'll have 15% for long-term protocol and ecosystem development. They have a treasury that will start with 0.5%, Parachain bond reserve, so that's like backing their lease spot, so they have enough capital there. They also have 17% for Parachain bond funding, and then 8% in this Take Flight community event, which we'll touch on down here a little further. So first thing to note about this, it's going to exclude U.S. Citizens because it's going to include a token sale. And so there's 3 different phases of this, and this Take Flight event will start in September of this year. So they're going to be selling 80 million of their Glimmer tokens over 3 phases, the first of which will have a guaranteed allocation. So maybe it can sell out in the early access community. Additionally, there'll be a 40-day lockup once the fully functional network launch happens with no vesting. And that's basically like part of their roadmap to decentralization. So after that is done, and then users must meet eligibility requirements, excluding U.S. participants. They're going to have more information coming out on this shortly on what exactly this entails, but definitely check out their Discord and stuff like that if you want to try and get involved in that, especially if you're a non-U.S. citizen. And then we can kind of take a look at the roadmap down here. So Moonriver, like I said, is the Canary variant that they launched on Kusama. So in early Q2 of this year, they had a crowd loan for the Kusama slot, which they were able to win. I believe they won the second Parachain slot auction behind Akala Network, which we'll cover here in the future. And then they had their launch process start at the beginning of Q3, which takes 6 weeks. On their website, they actually put what is the launch status. So I think this is step 4, where they have to remove the super user key that can make changes. So, that's a big part in decentralization. And then we'll see, at the end of August and September, they'll start doing their liquidity programs on Moonriver. So we can kind of look to that to see what they're going to do with Moonbeam. And they'll have their initial partners and integration deployments. So that'll be some of these projects we were talking about earlier. And so, how does this work for Moonbeam when that eventually goes on Polkadot? So, this take flight event is going to happen in September. Then they're expecting at the end of Q3, so probably end of September, to have the crowd loan for their Polkadot Parachain slot. Secure that. The launch process will take 6 weeks. And then from there, they will have project deployments and liquidity programs start later in Q4. So, definitely a little time before this happens, but it's pretty fast approaching. From what I can tell, it seems like a lot of projects are thinking the Polkadot Parachain slot auctions are going to start going live towards the end of Q3. So I'd be on the lookout for that, as it'll be a way to, bond your dot behind if you want to do Moonbeam or some other one, and then possibly earn like token rewards for doing that, or, a certain percentage of the token supply. And some more on the Glimmer token. So I kind of mentioned earlier how they're going to have this treasury that exists on chain. So of all the transaction fees that happen and are paid in the Glimmer token, 80% of those are going to be burned. So that'll have, deflationary pressure going against this 5% annual inflation rate. So we'll see which one outweighs the other. But that means the inflation is more than likely going to be netted out at less than 5% due to this burning. But also 20% is going to go to the treasury. And what's cool about that is with these Parachain slots, they're only available for like 6 months to 2 years, depending on the term you take. So after the end of the term, you're going to have to go through another auction to maintain that. So one of the ways the project is doing that is they're planning to save some of the transaction fees in this treasury that can help backstop the need for however much value they need to put behind their Parachain bid. And that'll help if maybe they're not getting as much of participants in their second Parachain slot auction like a couple years down the road. So good to see that they're planning for that. Additionally, we were talking about utility of the Glimmer token, governance, network transaction, protocol security, and gas metering as a reminder there. And additionally, so one of the things I mentioned, they have this Parachain bond funding. So this will go out to anybody that bonds their DOT tokens behind the Parachain. So, like, let's say 170 million DOT tokens are bonded behind their Parachain, and that's what it costs for them to lease their Parachain slot. That means for every one DOT token, somebody would receive one Glimmer token, and it'd be based on the vesting schedule that they have outlined. So you don't get them like all up front necessarily, but I've seen projects that kind of talk about, linearly distributing them over the term period to kind of mimic how you would get staking rewards if you participated in like the network security functions with your DOT token on Polkadot. And yeah, so I think that'll wrap up just about everything that has to do with Moonbeam. They call it a layer 1.5. So you can just think about it as something that provides all the development functionality and things like that you would have on Ethereum, but as a parachain on a Polkadot, which, gives you access to maybe some different technical capabilities, as well as different types of tokens and value and liquidity that can be brought into, your multi-chain project brand at this point. So I think the fact that we're seeing a lot of projects from Ethereum looking to move over to Moonbeam is a sign that, we're going to see multi-chain expanding, especially for a lot of these dApps. And it'll be cool to see once these Parachain loan offerings start off and which one is the first one. But yeah, this is the first video for us covering some projects that could possibly secure a slot at the beginning stages of the Parachain loan auctions. So, keep a lookout for future videos. I think the next one, Mickey will join me and we will talk about a Kala network, which is going to be the DeFi hub. But that'll be it for me today. I'm Patty XRP. This is the DeFi Standard, and I am out. See you guys.